Okay, so now you find yourself, you cannot get your assets. They were never registered. They cannot be traced. And also you cannot get the money that they took from your businesses. You are basically left destitute.
They refused to, as I said, to disclose the value of the money or where the assets are, or to return them in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act. You're supposed to return the assets of innocent people that you have taken because they no longer fall under the proceeds of crime.
But now you are claiming from government, there's a lawsuit that you're pursuing to recover your assets. Tell us about it. Why the amount, how did you reach that amount of what, 120.7 billion that you are claiming? Since when? What is the interest to date? And how did you arrive at that figure? Welcome to this virtual episode of The People's Eye. I'm your host, Sizwe Samayende, as usual. Today we're talking to Mr. Harry Chakala, all the way from wherever he is at the moment. But it's the topic we're talking about. It's a very important topic. Basically, we're looking at a very sad matter where a businessman is fighting to survive, to reclaim his businesses after being wrongfully accused of all sorts of charges which really didn't stick. The courts have vindicated him. I mean, every court in the land has vindicated him. He has faced so many cases, criminal, civil, but he has won all of them. But now, he once ran a very successful ICT, information communication technology business worth millions of rands, but he's going to tell us more about that. And he has lost everything. Government is dragging its feet to resolve his matter, which is basically to pay what is due to him after all wrongful arrests, being charged wrongfully, winning his cases in court. Yeah. I'm with Mr. Harry Chakala. He, as I mentioned, he used to be in the ICT space business. He's here with us today just to tell us about his struggles with the government, his fight with the government, basically over nothing. But welcome, Harry, to the People's Eye podcast.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just try to cut to the chase. You are suing the South African government for 120.7 billion rands. Just take us briefly to the genesis of the matter. Why do we find ourselves here?
Thank you very much, Sizwe, for your bravery to handle this matter publicly, because a lot of newspapers and the journalists refused to take this case to the public. So thank you very much for that. I would start. I'm now 60 years old plus. All my life now, majority of my life was in South Africa. But as a young man or young boy, we came to Malawi when we were young, in the 60s. And so I attended most of the school in Malawi. Both my mom and my mom, being South African, she relocated to Malawi, where my father comes from. That was ventilated in court in 2002 when the Department of Home Affairs approached me to identify myself, and with luck by that time, my mother was still alive. She passed on 2003, and but she had worked all her life here in Malawi at University of Malawi, the same university where I attended my engineering program to become an electrical electronics engineer. So my mother being working in the academic institution, that made life easy, I think, for my education at university level. But once she retired, by then my dad had died when 1993. So she lived 10 years longer than my dad, but because she was working at the University of Malawi. But when we were young, we were registered, me and my late brother, we were registered at the South African Council General in Malawi when she arrived in Malawi, so that is on record. And Malawi, my mother never took Malawian citizenship. While she was in Malawi, she remained South African. And but I think the context is that during apartheid, which probably a lot of some of us, when we were born, we were really born at the thick of apartheid system in the 60s, where my father was educated. He had his BA in communication from Indiana University, and he couldn't work in South Africa because of the situation. And I think that's what also prompted the decision for them to relocate to Blantyre, Malawi. But at the same time, I think my mother also had a terrible incident while I think we were young. She suffered lots of burns. She had burns almost probably on the upper body and the arms, where acid, then they were going to sapphire time as young girls, and the acid was thrown into the train where she, not only her, she was lucky she got bent upper body, but others lost their eyesight and the things like that. And I think that's what led my daddy to relocate to Malawi, and that paid up. Yeah, so that's the basic background. In 2002, as I said, my mom was able to travel from Malawi to South Africa to testify to Home Affairs official, and of course in court, and that I thought settled the whole identity issue. Yes,
that was when your troubles were starting. But how did they start? Did they start with your status in the country, or did they start with your business?
I think it was more to do with the business. Even in 2002, it was about business, where people started thinking that this businessman is not a South African. But I looked at it, that was temporary. We dealt with that issue. I continued doing my business. And then in 2023, the problem that came out was not much about the identity. It was more to do with the issue at hand, which was, SARS as my client, which I had been, SARS was one of my clients from around 2000. And the changes that took place at SARS were now late Pravin became the commissioner. Then that's where my real troubles started.
Okay, let's go back just a little bit to explain a bit more. SARS was your client. What contract were you awarded? How much was it? For how long?
With the SARS, I had multiple contracts. I had multiple contracts. One of the contracts was I set up their call center. So we were managing the call center. We also had the engineering team designing the e-filing system, which we designed the whole architecture. And then the other team was, providing network services, including supporting the office of the commissioner of SARS. It was my engineers that were working in the office of the commissioner, providing IT services to the office. So in total, I had about 22 engineers that were working at the receipt of revenue in 2023, around the time when the incident with the SARS started. But at the same time, in 2003, my company, I think, I was providing IT services and solution to almost 23 of the 26 national departments at that time. So I was providing IT services and solutions to all the departments, including the presidency. So it was not, this became an isolated incident at first, because the change of the leadership at SARS took a completely different issue out of a black-owned company, which decided.
At that time you're saying there were changes at SARS. What changes? A new commissioner is coming in, that is 2003, the late Pravin Gordhan.
Yes. He became a commissioner, if I remember, somewhere at the beginning of 2003. And by that time, the e-filing tender for capturing of all the records, the SARS records had been already gone to tender. We had tendered. The evaluation had been done. And the award was done, where everyone knew that the Computek, my company, had won that tender. But then I was probably in a difficult situation, because in September, it's when I lost my mom. On the 9th of September, I lost my mom at Branchest Clinic there in South Africa. So I was dealing with grief for that particular time, and it took me a little bit. I was, grief is grief. You have to deal with it. Though my mom was staying with me for some time, still it was a big incident, and it was soon after. In November. So in September, I buried my mom. And then come September, I used to grieving. The last parent is gone. And then that's when SARS attacked, which became very difficult to deal with at that particular time. Yeah.
What were their charges? What were they accusing you of?
Let me just explain what happened. What had happened on the 6th of November, there were more than 16 investigators, police, SARS officials, and from almost all other security agencies. They conveyed on my house. at around 5:30 in the morning. So I was woken up to banging of doors, windows, and when I went down, found out it was police. You are under arrest, and then of course all these other 16 agents from Sars and others, and then of course the charges was like you committing fraud, tax evasion, you are in possession of stolen vehicles, you defrauding the bank, Absa Bank, and then also, of course, they tried to bring the issues of immigration issues, that you're not a South African, and yeah, to me it was like they brought in almost 9-10 charges with the media. So everything was done live on air. My radio was on, so I could hear the operation on the radio at 7:02 that they are arresting this thug, this criminal that is doing drugs. You know, there were also issues of drugs. There were issues of there was I was one of the charges was drug trafficking, and they accused me that I got Nigerian friends, which I never had even one. and so that gave them the opportunity to almost like tear the whole house. They were in the roof, they were lifting up carpets, beds, looking for drugs. And I was like, what is this? He said, no, you are also wanted for drugs. And so they just threw out every serious criminal, or rape as well. There's also a charge of rape. And I was like, what is you raped? And but at the same time, I think I had a legal counsel for the company and my personal life. I don't have to mention him now, but now he serves in the Constitutional Court. So as I asked them, I said, can I call my counsel? And they said yes. Then I called him. He was an attorney practicing and then he came home. And I think that helped a lot, because then he was able to take charge of the situation, to identify all the security officers that were present. And then, of course, to then, negotiate whatever could be negotiated to make sure that I'm brought before court as soon as possible, and that he will be at court to attend to the matter. And that transpired. So I spent the first, it was a Friday that they came, and I spent the whole weekend at Pretoria Central Police cells. And then on Monday, I was taken to Pretoria Commercial Crime Court, where bail was denied because of the serious nature of the allegations.
Yeah. At that stage, where are your companies in terms of the revenue turnover, the number of contracts you're having? You're saying you were having multiple contracts at Sars, the number of employees. At that stage, where were you as a business person? How were your companies performing personally yourself? Would you describe yourself as a millionaire, multimillionaire at that time?
Yeah, I had probably two companies at that time running. One was a consulting company, consulting project management, finance management, and then the other one was IT, focusing on IT solutions and the services, and of course developing our own solutions. So I'm a software developer, so I was developing my own systems for various clients, both in the public and private sector. But in total, I had I think about not less than 350 employees in total. So I had about 350 employees doing Yeah, doing well. The turnover was reasonable at that time on a monthly basis. I think our turnover was at that time was probably pushing towards 30 million or more a month, depending on the number of days and weeks a month. But yeah, and of course we had also other partners. We had partnered some other companies that we were working together. So yeah, it's just, but yeah, we were a growing company, a seriously growing company in the both in the project management space and in the IT technology sector. But what had happened on the same day when they got arrested on the 6th of November, they shut down the entire operations. The bank accounts were closed. The offices, they took me to the offices, and the offices, they were closed. Red tape was placed on them. Employees were requested to vacate the offices, and all employees vacated the offices and sealed the offices. And then from there, I went into detention, where I think I spent 4 months in detention.
You refused
There I
bail.
was denied. Yes. So that's how I think the whole thing started. And yeah, I spent 4 months in detention: November, December, January, until February.
So what happened? Did you eventually get bail?
Yeah, I eventually got bail at the end, with the conditions which were absolutely ridiculous. So I was living in Johannesburg because I'd lost the house. There were no offices, so I was accommodated by my uncle, in Rosettenville. So the bail condition was to report to Pretoria Central Police Station every day before 9 o'clock. And so every day it was like you wake up, first thing I need to go to the taxis, to go to Pretoria to make sure by 9 o'clock I report that I'm still available. Yeah. So that's how I think it all began. Yeah.
Now you have all these charges hanging over you, and you're attending court. What happens? What happens? Take us through maybe until to the final day of the final court decision.
Yeah, I think after bail things came clear, because firstly, I wanted to understand who were the many investigators, and where are the keys for the offices, and so that I've got access to the offices. And by then, it was found that it was SARS. It was SARS that had the keys to the offices, the SARS Criminal Investigating Unit. So the police investigator that was there says, look, this has nothing to do with the police. It's got to do with the SARS. Everything you need to go to SARS. So I said, where? They directed me to go to SARS Landbank offices. And that's where I went and met the gentleman called Ishmael Lockhart, who was the main investigator. And then he asked for details that I'm on bail. I would like to know where my things are. My office are locked. Where are the keys? The banks are locked. How do I access my bank accounts? And then, of course, these seniors, that time, the regional manager intervened on my behalf, pushed the Lockhart to cooperate. And then, and that's how I knew that this whole thing is no one else. It's only SARS. It's a SARS issue. It's not the police real distance themselves. So there's look, we just came. We were told you were a criminal. That's why we came. Even the warrant of arrest was initiated by SARS. So, yeah, everything was left in the hands of SARS. So that's how I realized that the whole battle was with the Commissioner of Receiver of Revenue, um, Pravin Gordon, because his name came up in the meeting that they, they, they need to get directions from the commissioner, and only the commissioner can decide. So, but in the end, they also found out the investigating officer was a nephew of Pravin Gordon. So that's what happened. So the investigating officer was a nephew of late Pravin Gordon.
Yeah. Okay. Now we know that
Yeah.
whatever charge SARS had against you didn't stick. You are innocent as we speak. The courts found you not guilty. We'll go back to their charges, but I'm trying to find out whether there was a story behind the story. Okay, these charges were just a facade. Actually, there's something that is happening in the background, which maybe led for certain individuals to target you on these trumped up charges.
Yeah, I think it's not an assumption. I think the question is it's a correct proposition. Though it took me long to understand the whole picture, because you're not given the charge sheet to know exactly the charges. You go to court and the court, they say they're still investigating. The charge sheet is not ready. So I think that took time for me to start putting the picture that what really had transpired, who are the people behind, whether it's competition in the market that are behind the whole mess. But all that came out as time went on, and then SARS withdraw their charges in 2005, and then of course then I thought the matter in 2005 was finished. But at the same time, what had happened, SARS had also started a civil charge against what they had done. They had issued a which they called a revised tax assessment, which was had indicated that they owned the tax of about 4.3 million rands. So that tax assessment, it was saying, I need to respond to the tax assessment in order to answer to the assessment, which became difficult because at the same time SARS had removed all the documents, all the computers, and I arrested also my bookkeeper. So I was not allowed to engage the bookkeeper, because they said, look, we have your bookkeeper is also a person of interest in the case. But at the same time, because as I mentioned, the banks were closed. When I went to open the bank account, you found that there was no balance. All the balances in the account, couple of millions, were taken. So there was no balance in the bank account. I'm not allowed to ask the bookkeeper what to do, and but in the end, it was discovered that the tax assessment was wrong, because what they did, they knew that there was no tax debt at all. All taxes were paid. So what they did is they took the VAT of the income of two entities, combined the turnover of the two entities from where the business had started from 2000, when the first financial results were made. But so that the total income from that period to 2003, they combined the two entities' income and raised an assessment as if it's one entity, and then say, you can see the difference. You owe us money. And I say, but how now do I owe you money? Because I know from the bookkeeping, all the returns were submitted, all the taxes, VAT, pay as you earn, corporate tax from profits, everything was paid. That I knew. I was 100% that is fully paid. So where is this coming in? And then they said no. They refused to disclose, but they said this is what you need to deal with. And to deal with it, that resulted in me to go and hire a forensic accountant. And that's how I ended up going to a forensic accountant to deal with the tax assessment, so I can review it and together with the banking records and to see. And that's when in 2006 we discovered that the tax assessment was unlawfully constructed by combining the turnover of two entities and putting that tax assessment on one company in order to show tax debt which did not exist. So that's how the whole case, we were able to understand what Sars had done. So in 2006, after the forensic expert had analyzed the whole thing, we presented to Sars. Within 2 weeks after presenting the forensic expert, presenting the report, then I was arrested again in 2006, and I was taken to Johannesburg High Court on the same tax assessment that they asked to owe tax. And I said, but on what? They said, look, once the commissioner puts up a tax assessment, then you got obligation to pay. Then I said, but how do I pay tax on a tax assessment that you have admitted is wrong? He said, no, that's not the point. You pay and then you argue later. And I said, no, but you do that if it's correct, but you say it's wrong. But you said, I must pay an assessment that is wrong. I said, yeah, that's why you are here. You are refusing to pay tax. And by that time, I had established the business in February 2006. And then as I was about to, going around with my business, it became now the assessment which they were relying upon to issue further agent appointments to take the money from the companies on a monthly basis. So basically, every time I receive money, then Sars would grab the money to pay towards the tax assessment. And that went on until 2009. And then 2009, when I wanted to stop this practice they were doing, because they would do, timing was very important for me. They would literally issue an agent appointment for the banks to transfer money on the paid day, just before the paid day, to make sure I don't pay employees. and I say it as while laughing, because that became a pattern that I used to pay on the 27th, and I knew on the 26th Sars will issue agent appointment to the bank for all the balances in the bank accounts to be transferred to Sars. And so I could literally, it was like, come on the 27th, I can't pay salaries, Sars has taken the money. And then I started becoming creative in my own way, doing business outside South Africa, and where I would take extra money from outside to go and pay the salaries of employees and all other direct and indirect expenses that we were incurring. But through, when I took them to court at that point, and then a strange decision was made by court. Instead of setting aside the assessment, the court said it had no power to intervene on the commissioner's decision. So that got dismissed. And then I appealed it to Supreme Court, where I think Justice Chakala was the lead, a very close friend of the late commissioner. said the same thing and said, look, we cannot interfere in the commissioner's decisions to take your money. So they can continue to take your money and we can't do anything about it. And I appealed that decision to Pretoria High Court. And again, a judge said it's very difficult to interfere in the powers of the commissioner. And so this matter needs to go back to criminal court. Then I was back in the criminal court because I was refusing to pay against the assessment. And strangely, I demanded that, look, we needed to then let the criminal case continue. The criminal case that was withdrawn in 2005, the same criminal case was withdrawn again in 2006. And in 2009, I said, enough is enough. Let's have a criminal case go through. And we demanded, and that's how the criminal case started in 2009. Yeah. So, but in the criminal case from 2009 is the one that the Sars decided to divide the multiple periods of business into different courts. So I was sitting in multiple courts in the same magistrate court. I would go to this court this week, next week to another court for this period. So from 2000 to 2000 in another court. Then this period to this period in another court.
So it's the same SARS matter. Then they split it up into different courts.
Yes.
So that you were attending multiple courts, many courts, on charges emanating from the SARS matter.
From the same tax assessment. So one tax assessment was in 3 multiple courts, split between item number 1 to now this item in this court, item this to this in this court, item this to the last in another court. And but that was the decision of the prosecutor, a white prosecutor, because the black prosecutors had refused to deal with the case. So a white prosecutor with the husband, who were both prosecutors, ended up sharing me in different courts. And then of course, what is it? You are in front of courts, you abide by courts decision. So, and that went on for a number of years, going to different courts, and trying to prove yourself innocent, that you are not, you didn't commit the crimes or the allegations that they had presented here.
What happens after those hundreds of appearances? What happens eventually?
Eventually, court 8, they found me not guilty. In 2016, in January somewhere, and in court 22, in May, actually very strangely in that court, I had not seen a charge sheet, but when I went on the 9th of May, the magistrate just put in a judgment, and they said, I'm reading a judgment. I said, but I haven't even testified because I was waiting for a charge sheet. He says, no, I got my judgment. Then I got convicted on the tax that are all tax, where I did not defend. I did not even see the charge sheet. and then got locked up, no bail. And that was in 2016. And they ended up staying in custody for 7.5 months, where my legal team were trying to find out what was the basis of conviction and what were the exact charges. And it was a fight because she wanted to sentence. And then my counsels would say, but how do you sentence when you can't even see the charge sheet in this court? So that was in one. And then in court 14, I was acquitted somewhere around July 2016. And the judge as well, it's in his judgment. He also said, despite the trial from 2009 to date, there was no charge sheet in this case. So I got acquitted, and it's on record that there was also no charge sheet in court 14. But so that I think gave me also leverage that I had 2 cases acquitted, 1 I'm convicted, and the same problem. There's no charge sheet. It's on a paper. I mean, it was like they're throwing paper in court. But again, I was in front of an Indian lady, which became very emotional, because every time my counsels want to engage her, and then she would say they're racist. It became very emotional, and she would defend herself. But yeah, because you're attacking me because I'm Indian and you are white, it's a racial issue. And so, and that's the last case that in the end my counsel decided to take to the High Court, where in 2018 Judge Msimiki dismissed it and said it's unconstitutional, unlawful, and all the charges were not necessary, and that was the end of the criminal trials, and then that was confirmed when I did go to apply for police clearance, and somewhere 2 months later, the police issued me the police clearance certificate, saying there are no more outstanding charges. You are a free man.
Okay, that was in 2018. 2018.
That was in 2018.
You were set free. Okay, and then you've lost your businesses by that time. What happens then? How do you reclaim your businesses and continue with your life?
Yeah, that's, I think, the battle that we are in now. Number one is to understand that the SARS started taking assets, money, and the property in 2003. So that procedure never stopped. So they kept on collecting money and from bank accounts through agent appointments, and no one even knows how much they collected because they have refused to disclose up to now. They also went as far as from 2003 going to the clients, because one of the bail conditions was that if I continue to do business, every month I must report to SARS the value of the business that I'm doing. So every month I would report to the SARS investigators the name of the contract, the invoices, the value of the invoices, and the statement of accounts. And because it was by court directive, I think that gave them information to be able to collect as much money as they could. So because as I said, I was giving them this information, on monthly basis, and when I came in 2018, when I asked for the money, the money was never credited to any of the business accounts, nor the assets they took were never registered with the police, nor so they should have been in SAPSA 13, right? SAPS 13 register, where if they take assets, they're supposed to be registered.
Well, what assets did they take? Okay, it's money, I understand, but the assets, what assets? Was it vehicles? Was it what?
Everything. They took in 2003. They took the 2 cars, an X5 and the X3. They took those. They took all furniture in the offices, computers, stock, everything, paper. They took everything. The software that I was designing with, the servers, they took the servers, and and everything disappeared. And everything.
Okay, so now you find yourself, you cannot get your assets. They were never registered. They cannot be traced. And also you cannot get the money that they took from your businesses. You are basically left destitute.
Absolutely. Been destitute for some time. So yeah, basically they refused to, as I said, to disclose the value of the money or where the assets are, or to return them. In terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, you're supposed to return the assets of innocent people that you have taken, because they no longer fall under the proceeds of crime.
Exactly. But what are their reasons for refusing to give you back what belongs to you?
They don't answer. They don't answer. All the correspondence that they have done, that's never been answered. I tried to get, I asked to print for prints from Sars of returns or statement of accounts from the system, which I got a bit of them. But when you go through all of them, there's nothing, no register of any of the money or assets that they took. And then when I asked the accounting forensic expert to do it, he did try to do it, but they also failed. So the report is clear from the forensic expert that SARS refused to cooperate to disclose the whereabouts of all these assets and the money that they took. I went to the banks. So I went to Absa Bank, FMB, to request disclosure in terms of PAJA, I think so, or something like that, or no, not PAJA, another act, which I was helped by my legal counsel, and the banks refused. That the SARS has blocked them from refusing even the state financial from the bank statements, which, so I couldn't even get the bank statements from Absa and the other banks. So it remains a secret. I really don't know how much total money they took, but the estimate by the forensic expert was not less than 165 million over the period.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's 7 years later since you are a free man. You have your police clearance. What's happening now? At what stage is this case? What have you done?
Well, the effort by the legal team to engage SARS went as far as going to court to demand the return of assets. And we tried as well, just in order to get cash. We tried the writ of execution against the SARS, because the forensic report is part of court records. So it's not that it was submitted to SARS, and SARS did not contest against the forensic audit report. So it remains uncontested, correct? And we use that audit report to try to recover the assets, which the judge gave us the order to, the writ of execution was granted, and we saved it on SARS to cooperate. SARS did not cooperate. And then we reached the stage of getting a writ of execution, which we attached to the bank accounts of SARS at the Standard Bank, in order for us to get at least the money plus interest, some of it, which we did. And then another process that I followed, I registered a complaint with the tax omb in 2018 that the tax ombudsman should assist. And if you remember, the tax omb at that time was former judge president of Gauteng, Judge what's his name? Yeah, the former president. Okay, but it's a former president judge that he conducted investigation, and they found the SARS that the SARS was wrong. The assets that they took, they need to return, and that SARS continue to use the money and the assets that they took, profiting, which means the state continues to use my money. In real fact, that's what it says. So the state continues to use until it gives back those money and the assets that they took, which probably is not possible because the vehicles, surprisingly, even the vehicles do not exist in Inatis. They were completely deleted from the vehicle identification system. So they don't exist, but I got the proof of the documents that the cars exist. Had existed. So yeah, SARS does not cooperate at all. Basically, they answered to no one, and not even to my legal counsels for recovery of the assets that they have taken now for the past 22 years.
So what is your last resort on this matter?
What we did then, of course, through the process, then we ended up in court where Judge Bakwa, after looking at the matter, had ordered that the parties must just negotiate and settle everything. He had very strong words for SARS that they have acted unconstitutionally and unlawfully, and it's abuse of power. But even those words do not mean anything to SARS. So they're still refusing to cooperate with the Judge Bakwa's court order, which is binding on the parties, right? We all know court orders are binding. If you don't like it, you appeal. But SARS has never appealed, but they refused to engage, not even to respond to any correspondence. Basically, they're silent. It's like you hitting a wall. I've tried communicating with the commissioner and everyone, no one answers.
So you're basically saying there's a court order by Judge Bakwa. It says that SARS and yourself must sit around the table and settle.
Yes.
And then SARS is not coming to the table.
Yeah, the court order is also directed to the Minister of Finance to be part of the settlement negotiations. I think, SARS needed someone. I would assume needed the minister as the executive authority of SARS.
Yes,
to be part of
that. The buck stops with him, with the minister.
Yes, the buck stops with the minister, and so you write it to SARS, you write to the minister, you get no answer. None of them responds to any invitation or to directives from court. And also part of the process is that I petitioned to Parliament. I had to find a sponsor, and then one honorable member of Parliament, honorable, I'll mention his name because he's such a valuable person, Honorable Nalit Singh. After trying probably more than I tried to contact more than 30 MPs, mostly black MPs. No one was interested, and he really sympathized, and he was the sponsor in Parliament, trying to help, and he has tried to help in Parliament. He's tabled the motion, gets blocked. He managed to get the Parliamentary Legal Affairs Advisors Committee to sit on the matter. They agreed that the minister and the SARS must comply with the court order. It's binding. And then despite the resolution by the parliamentarians the Speaker of Parliament, the former Speaker Mapisa, reversed that decision and and then he urged me to go back to court. so yeah, that's what it has been. It's frustrating that the Sars and the minister do not respect the court order that was granted.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going back to court, not an option to say, look, here is the minister or here's the SARS commissioner is in contempt of court. What is the next step? But it's a criminal offense, basically.
Yeah, but it needs money. I need it might not be just money, but the fact is that we have looked at it with legal counsels whether a contempt of court would send the minister to, it's just a fine. He might be fined 12,000 rands or whatever amount he gets fined. What do you achieve?
Yeah, because the main issue is about
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about getting the assets and the money back, and then also looking at now we saved the state with the claims for the damages that they caused over the years. So there's more to say than for me to worry about the contempt of court order. I mean, you expect the government to be accountable, in terms of the constitution, in terms of PAJA, in terms of various court orders that we expect the government to be the first to comply with court orders. And that's, I think that's my frustration. Going back to court, what I mean, you understand what's going on in our courts. It's very difficult to hold the executive accountable. It's just difficult.
Yeah, but now you are claiming from government. There's a lawsuit that you're pursuing to recover your assets. Tell us about it. Why the amount? How did you reach that amount of what 120.7 billion that you are claiming? Since when? What is the interest to date? And how did you arrive at that figure?
The lawsuit or the summons are in 3 parts. The first part is the assets that they took, that they needed to bring them back. Those assets, they are benefiting from those assets. What else are they doing with them? I mean, if they were not valuable, they would have returned them. But they're still benefiting out of the assets, out of the money that belongs to these entities and to me and my colleague, Siabonga. That's one part. And the second, we're dealing with, second, we're dealing with the prescription. The challenge in terms of the law is that if you did not save the summons on time, then the whole claims, including the assets that they were taken, would have maybe fallen under prescription. That we have no rights again to go to court. So we were forced to put the summons in order to protect the assets that they took, right, in terms of the institution of legal proceedings against the organs of state. I think you are aware about it. So the state, and we didn't need to go that far, but because of the state intransigence not to cooperate with an invitation and ignoring the court orders, we had to do that. Secondly, is the forensic experts, and this is, I think, it's important to understand. The figures that you see are not coming from me, Mr. Chakala, are coming from forensic experts, accounting forensic experts that calculated and they arrived at these figures for lost profits and the lost business value. So you have two parts where those assets, if they were within the business, they would have generated certain amount of profit because it's capital to the business. And those assets, as long as they're depriving the business, it's a capital to continue to operate and grow and generate profits. So that is called lost profit. Then you have the damages where now no one wants to talk to Mr. Chakala, no one wants to talk to the companies because everyone thinks we are delinquent taxpayers. We didn't pay taxes, which is false, and the reputation damages, the constitutional rights that were violated, and that is called lost business value. If these businesses were not, there was no interruption to them, they would have continued to grow. And the goal of the company, we knew what we wanted. We wanted to grow this business up to listing. We didn't want to, there's no intent. Even now, we strongly feel that if it recovers the money, the claims that it has, they will still continue to grow. We'll start again and rebuild it there. So the goal has not been abandoned. The goal is that we need to get this money so that we can go back and continue to do business. But also what's important, you should, is to remind that the business have got their own life. I think you did quote your article that they are dualistic persons. They normally outlast us. If they continue going, probably they will outlast me, maybe even my children. So that's, I think, the mindset that we would like to this business to continue to grow. Within the business, there are valuable assets, there are patents that were obtained that are attached to the businesses that can enable the business to operate and continue to grow. There are also claims against the businesses. So there are employees that have, that still want to be paid, that were not paid. Lots of them. In fact, I think there are over 100 employees that I keep on begging them, I'll pay you. As soon as I get the money, I'll pay you as well, because their pension money, their it's in there. It's not only my money, because people, if you look at the whole stakeholder, it's not only the founder and me. There are people that work for these companies, some as far as 15, 16 years. And those people, when the business collapsed, their pension, their packages, I'm still reliable to compensate them for all those things. So it's the way it is that we need this money in order to manage the challenges that we have.
My worry sitting here, I'm thinking about, since you filed the papers, submitted them, claimed your money, it's accumulating interest. How much per month is that interest? As long as government is not paying, then they will eventually pay the interest. Actually, not government, the taxpayers.
Oh yes, I think the issue on the total amounts plus interest, it's a settled understanding that the interest will have to be paid. The interest on these claims is 15.5% per annum. It's compounded on monthly basis, and it's an obligation that the fiscus, the people will have to pay. And every month now, I think the interest is above 1.6 billion per month, and it will change because as the compound figure increases, the interest is also rising. So probably by in 3-4 months' time, the interest could be around 1.8 billion per month. And the state, the day it decides to pay, it will have to pay this interest. and unfortunately, yeah.
These are crazy amounts, but I also understand how big your businesses were. But in terms of losing any business, you mentioned briefly that you were even operating outside South Africa. So you had businesses in various countries on the African continent. How much of that did you lose? Which countries were you operating?
I think the biggest was Nigeria. Nigeria, we established an entity where one of the patents, your alert for security incident management, they took it, they bought it, right? I was in 2016 when I was about to to go to Nigeria and finalize the whole business arrangements. I was detained. I was in custody. So people did it for me. So the product has been growing. In Nigeria, they are using it, but I don't get any benefit because as a convicted person, I was removed as a director in my own company, and did the same. So the business in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, I was removed as a director because of the conviction. So despite that, I formed this business. I'm no longer part of these businesses because I was convicted. So the implications when you are convicted, you resign. I mean, automatically you are resigned from the directorship in any company. So that's the situation where people think, it would happen to anyone, whether it's whoever it is. If you are a business director or owner, doesn't matter. If you are guilty, you are convicted for criminal, you resign. You are forced to resign. Even if you don't send a letter, your colleagues will resign you from the company. So that's what happened. So I was resigned in Nigeria. I was resigned in Kenya. I was resigned in Zimbabwe. I was resigned in Malawi, and I needed to fight to reclaim back my ownership. So it needs more money. That's why without having this money, then I cannot even start fighting to reclaim my shares in these companies, and so I'm losing more. I'm losing, and no one really feels sorry for anyone. I need to go to Nigeria and again negotiate, find the legal team to represent me to go to court for reinstatement as a director and the shareholder in the company. You can't do it sitting here. No one answers you. So that's the reality, that the guys, as much as we were friendly, no one answers me. I've tried to email, no one bothers to answer. So it's tough. I'm losing, continuously losing. I really don't know how much I've lost in dividend in Nigeria. I really don't know. I'll need to go to court for disclosure and then trying to reclaim the losses that continue to occur as long as I cannot go to these countries to fight for the rights.
Okay. Look, I really can't believe your story, but I have seen the court papers and everything, or backing up what you have just said now, and I also can't believe that Sars is has been a very reputable organization doing its job, the best in Africa, one of the best in the world. I'm finding it hard to associate themselves with this kind of behavior that you've just explained, giving us a picture about. Really, I really cannot believe it. But let me put it on record that I have sent questions to Sars to respond, because I started by writing an article on the peopleseye.co.za. Anyone can go there and look for it. It's titled "The Forgotten Gupta Name Looms Large as Businessman Sues South African Government for 120 billion rands." So that's my point here, that really, I cannot believe this. So SARS didn't respond to written questions just to find out what is their game plan on this claim. They've been quiet. So yeah, you are suing. Any idea from the courts when is it going to go to court? Any idea on the next step from here?
My legal counsels have advised me and my colleague that there is now a directive by Gauteng Judge President, now Justice Mulambo, Deputy Chief Justice, that in civil matters, the parties there's a compulsory mandate for mediation before any civil matter proceeds in court. So we think, or they think, that we could maybe use this directive again to try to bring the minister and the SARS commissioner, and of course the Minister of Police and Minister of Justice on the table, in compliance with the directive, issued by by Justice Mulambo. So whether they will abide by that, we'll see, if we go through that. Then secondly, your article has been an eye-opener to so many people that literally also we all believed, they had believed that SARS is an institution that is beyond the reapproach, but some of us, we got a different opinion of SARS, because some of the individuals that were involved in the case, in the criminal matter, are still working for SARS. And then you sit it down, you say, but the commissioner knows these individuals. They're sitting with him at the executive level, and they're not held accountable. Now, for me is, and I'm sure even for the tax ombudsman, Judge Mwepa, that name comes now, the respectable Judge Mwepe, yes, the former Judge President of Gauteng. I always look at him as one of the probably most decent judicial officer we had in modern times, to me, because of his character and the way he handled the matter when he was, I had made complaints to him. It's unfortunately that is growing up, but I wish he was still the Judge President. But it's that type of people that probably can assist even in this type of matter. But at the same time is SARS itself, to be honest, and I'm sure it's not only me, because I've met other individuals in custody, business people, that were sitting in custody, facing almost similar allegations and charges. So to me, as a black person, knowing where we're coming from, the history of the country, I know very well what it is, what apartheid is. I lived in it, it's. I think it doesn't embrace the dynamics of of transition that we have done, and I don't think it has. And I wish I could mention the names, but they're there, and believe me, they are not black people; they are white people that do these things. It's not black people.
Yeah, your case is not unique. I can assure you of that, because I've come across many complaints in my line of job of people complaining about various government departments riding roughshod on their rights, just like your case. Being unable to continue with anything. But my worry as well is that even if you are a Sars, you are trying to claim what is due to the South African public, businessman is doing wrong. I don't think the goal should be to close that business, rather recover what you are owed and let the business continue, because like your business, even if you were found guilty, you had done wrong. You should not be destroyed, or rather the business should not be destroyed, because now 350 jobs, you employ 350 people, they lost their jobs, So the spirit should be to rebuild and reconstruct a business that is not doing right, that has gone delinquent. You need to make sure that it does things the way it should do, rather than to destroy it completely.
It all depends who gets destroyed. I don't think you have seen many white-owned businesses destroyed. Even when they are wrong, they resolve through negotiations. The Company Act is a guideline for businesses. If you go through the Company Act, it's clear what are the procedures that must be followed. So you read the Companies Act, if I go wrong, these are the procedures that you have to go through. You only get probably charged criminally if it's proven by auditors that you have done something wrong. But this is not what the SARS does. SARS just act above the law. What I'm saying is from my side is the experience I've had with the SARS acts above the law. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rights of taxpayers. It's about the numbers. They have a target they want to collect, and they think if they deliver the numbers, then it's a world-class organization. It's not. I mean, we want a SARS that helps the economy grow, helps solve the unemployment, helps solve the poverty. That's the SARS that we want. And what the behavior can never contribute to these challenges the country is facing. I don't think how they can do it. So I think those are the challenges that we need to accept, that we got a problem here, and we need SARS to be not only just a tax collector, but to ensure that they assist to create job opportunities. They assist to reduce poverty. They assist to educate. I had my company was sponsoring young people in universities. Some have graduated up to PhD level that I funded. University of Natal, you can go, you investigate, you say, Mr. Kamedi, significant donation and mentorship to a lot of young people in the technology sector. And now you sit down with this reputation damage. It's very difficult to add any value. How do I add value when people think, but my sponsor is in custody? How, it's very challenging. So SARS needs to realize they need to be an institution that plays bigger picture than just collecting money, but to make sure they're an enabler of economic growth, they're an enabler of reducing unemployment, reducing poverty, and coming with the tax policies, which there are many. There are tax policies all over the world they can learn from that can help small businesses to grow. But they just protected the multi-billionaires and which probably don't pay as much as tax like individuals. But the attitude of SARS to me is, and maybe one day you convince me otherwise, is that honestly it's an institution that needs to be transformed, to understand how modern revenue collecting agencies operate in a modern democracy. That has not. You can go. I'm saying this is what it is. All the laws, tax laws that were still created under apartheid for sometimes other reasons are still in the book. Why no one knows, understand why SARS can still, in my case, there were times when SARS would use tax laws that goes as far as 30s, 40s, 50s in a new democracy. When there's a public, or the Tax Administration Act, you won't find some of these tax laws in the Tax Administration Act or income tax. But there are tax laws that goes as far as 50s, 30s that they still use in court of law in modern day. So there's lack of transformation at SARS. There's a lack of integrity within individuals, right? And I'm saying this includes the commissioner himself. I don't think he might be a good man, but to me, I don't think he's a man of integrity. And some of his executives are involved, were involved in my case, and they sit with them. I didn't expect him as a commissioner to be sitting with the guys that acted unlawfully in the matter of this nature. And then, of course, Parliament seems to ignore SARS completely. So Parliament, you hardly see Parliament holding SARS accountable for anything. I mean, I say this when my mother went, they read. I mean, if the speaker knows about it, the opposition knows about it, the parliamentary legal affairs advisors, it's a committee that constitutes all legal advisors from all political parties. And they can see SARS, and they still can't hold them accountable. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah,
so
I get your point.
Yes, that even Parliament has distanced itself from SARS.
No,
and then I think talk about the Minister of Finance is just a figurehead. He probably knows very little about taxes, so he thinks everything is well at SARS.
Yeah, no, I do understand your frustration completely based on what I have seen. But my last question will be, you are obviously not in South Africa. You left South Africa. Was it out of what? Maybe being tired of this case, you wanted a new scenery to recharge yourself? Or was it for other reasons?
No, I mean, it's plain and simple. It's in the papers. It's in the summons. I left South Africa after surviving an assassination attempt from state agents. I'm saying from state agents because I have now understood and that they were security agents who were together at police with those agents who identified themselves as security agents when they were, they were caught. So I know my name is still on the wanted list, for what only God knows. So it's very difficult, and I got a belief if I can come back tomorrow, probably I only last 24 hours maximum. I'll be taken out. And that's because even where I am, there have been assassination attempts twice. So even where I am, it's not that I'm safe. I live a very constrained life just to, to make sure that at least I still got life. But so yeah, it's luckily enough, as you travel in Africa, the investments that one made, I was able to have resources to go out and to keep on fighting while I'm out. It doesn't mean legal cases are for free. I still have to find the resources to pay the councils, make sure they can defend. So it's Of course, it's becoming more complex as the years go back. I mean, I escaped. I went into self-imposed exile in 2019, and that's now almost 6 years, more than 6 years. A lot of time, I've disconnected with a lot of my business clients. So it's the impact is the longer I stay out, it's not good. It's not good for the business, So, but of course, I'm hoping that we can resolve, and I can come back and continue the businesses and other new opportunities that I would want to pursue in the contest as an entrepreneur.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for being brave enough to share your story with the world. I know it's a difficult one. But thanks a lot for coming through and talk to us at the People's Side. Unless you've got something to add, I think I've asked enough. I understand your story now better.
No, not much to add. Thank you very much for the work you have done. The article, as I said, you were the only brave investigative journalist that literally, when you heard about me, you contacted me and you wanted to know about my story. And from there, I think you have done, and I'm sure you also do more because there's more to write. So I'm expecting you to write more because I know there's a lot that you can write. But
I'm gonna watch the developments.
It's people like you that really are delivering real change to our society.
Well, thanks very much. You're giving us that momentum to continue. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Good luck. Good luck.
Same to you, man. Same to you.